are fundamentally not going to agree with me on this because you think
that Palestinians deserve to live. Thank you very much.
No, ma'am, that's not it. Did you record it? Did you? Hi.
Yes, I did record it.
Thank you. Okay.
It happened again. It actually happened again. And you know what? This time, I was expecting it. I expected socialists to prevail because I won't lie. Like, I don't want to say I'm getting used to winning, but I kind of feel like it's not that surprising. You can tell that something is happening in this country clearly, and the Democratic Party's base, they're finally siding with the Democratic Socialists. And you know that the establishment Democrats were looking at Colorado very closely tonight because in the event the Socialists lost, well, then we all know that they would be arguing that what happened last week in New York was a fluke, even though, I mean, that's disingenuous in the event they made that theoretical argument because Ana Lilia Mejia showed that socialism is viable in New Jersey. Chris Rabb showed that socialism is viable in Pennsylvania. So it's not like New York is some sort of an outlier, but they were hoping to find some sort of argument they can make, and they were kind of pinning their hopes and dreams on Colorado and crossing their fingers and toes and hoping that the DSA-backed candidate would fail. But my friends, that did not happen, and I kind of feel like they're not that surprised too because Diana DeGette, the incumbent Democrat in this particular race that we're going to talk about, behind the scenes, there were articles about how she was clenching her butt cheeks the entire time because her internal polling showed that she was going to get clapped by Melat Kiros, and her worst nightmare did, in fact, come true because when you go to the results here, even though it's close, DSA-backed Melat Kiros defeated Diana DeGette. And oh my God, does it feel so good to see that headline because another Democratic Socialist is going to be going to Congress. And I won't lie, it feels fucking good. I'm sorry that centrists who are watching might think that I'm being too arrogant or gloating, but my response to that is to suck my nuts because you all are insufferable when you win. You are the sorest losers ever. So for us to taste a little bit of victory for the first time in forever, I mean, you have to expect that we're going to be kind of dickish about it. So, I'm sorry. Cope. I fucking love this. Now, there were other results that I want to talk about that are also important because we're going to see so much narratives built around this particular election because the establishment is desperate to downplay the significance of the socialist wave. But I'm not going to let them. So let's go to the statewide races. So corporate Democrat John Hickenlooper ended up surviving his primary against Julie Gonzalez in a race for the U.S. Senate, which is very disappointing because Julie Gonzalez is a great progressive candidate, but she didn't pull off a victory. However, progressive Phil Weiser, who was endorsed by David Sirota, defeated corporate Democrat Michael Bennet for the Democratic gubernatorial primary. And after having one of the worst Democratic mayors in the country, basically a MAGA mayor who actually pardoned Tina Peters, an insurrectionist, this is a Democrat, mind you, it's nice that Coloradans are actually going to get a real progressive as their mayor if Phil Weiser ends up winning. But I do want to go to the results regarding John Hickenlooper because you're seeing a little bit of spin that is not acceptable. And Emma Vigeland addressed it directly, writing on Twitter, "Much respect to Steve Kornacki, but he just said Gonzalez's loss to Hickenlooper was a test of how much appetite there was for a DSA candidate statewide because she was a former member with similar stances. Pundits are missing the mark by glossing over DSA's organizing power." And that is a really important point that we cannot let them just gloss over. Okay, yes, Julie Gonzalez was a phenomenal candidate aligned with the Democratic Socialists, but she was not endorsed by the Democratic Socialists of America. The difference there is key because all of these candidates, as Emma Vigeland pointed out, who are actually endorsed by the DSA, they have some real organizational muscle behind them. They have thousands and thousands of people putting in the footwork to get these people across the finish lines. And if you don't have that, it really makes a difference. Even if your policies are great and voters are going to disagree with you or going to agree with you ideologically and disagree with your opponent, still, you have to reach voters, and DSA has a way of doing that. And you really see here how Melat Kiros, who had the DSA behind her, and Julie Gonzalez, they had different results. Now, yes, one is a House race, one is a statewide race, which is always going to be more difficult. Nonetheless, the DSA is showing that they are not fucking around. They are a well-oiled political machine, and if they endorse one of these candidates, then their chances go up significantly. Not just because everybody's like, hey man, DSA is cool. I love the Democratic Socialists of America. It's because they have people on the fucking ground, on the phones, making sure these candidates win. That is so damn important, because every single time we see a progressive, socialist-aligned, non-DSA-backed candidate fail, they're going to try to say, oh, look at this, socialism is failing. Actually, no, there just needs to be real organizational oomph behind these candidates to get them across the finish line, because believe it or not, it's very hard to run a successful campaign if you are only taking small grassroots donations. Like these other candidates, they have millions of dollars behind them. Like these corporate Democrats, they're raising so much money because they have no qualms about taking money from super PACs and, tech companies who want to build AI data centers and the Israel lobby. And when you sell your soul out, you can accumulate a lot of money for your campaign really fast. So unless you have, this organization machine behind you to make up for that deficit, it's going to be hard to win. Now, when it comes to Melat Kiros, she is such a good candidate. And to think that one of these kinds of candidates getting elected would have excited me, years ago. Now we have multiple. We have Daria Liza, Claire, now we have Melat. And she is amazing because first and foremost, she's incredibly young, but just so smart. She's 29 years old. She's a lawyer. She's a PhD student. And she is unapologetically progressive, and that's why the DSA endorsed her. But what I find so funny is that if you look at the attacks that the right-wingers are trying to lob at her, they are struggling to come up with anything that's going to stick to her. They're basically just promoting her policies through her videos. Like they're saying, hey, look at her. This crazy candidate is saying that everybody in the country should have health care. As if that's a scandal, but when people see that, they're like, bet, I want that. I want that. In fact, there was a on the street style interview by Fox News where they were going around NYC asking voters what they thought of socialism, and they were like, oh yeah, I voted for the socialist candidates.
Do you feel comfortable sharing who you voted for?
I vote for Brad Lander.
I voted pretty much down the line for those socialist candidates.
If you had the opportunity, would you vote for a socialist?
100%.
Why?
Because it's better for the people.
No one even knows what socialism means. Okay, no one knows what capitalism means. They're just all buzzwords. We're talking about real issues on the ground here. That's what Zoran is all about.
What is one thing you would like to see happen tomorrow to make us more socialist?
Everybody has health care. Everybody has free education.
I think that they thought they were going to find people who were like, socialism, ugh. But this isn't the 1960s or 70s anymore. The Red Scare politics doesn't really land with anybody who's under the age of 80 years old. So the fact that they are so hell-bent on trying to destroy these candidates, but they don't know how to attack them, it's so funny to watch. Watching them flail is the most entertaining thing ever. There's another headline from the New York Post where they basically say, Melat Kiros says that United States foreign policy is responsible for 9/11, which is such a funny thing for them to point out, because do you want to know who agrees with Melat Kiros? The United States CIA, because what she was referring to is blowback, which is the simple idea that, hey, when you do things in other countries that make their populations mad, sometimes they will retaliate. The CIA coined the term blowback. And for her to just point that out is a scandal, because they're trying to subtly suggest that, oh, she's pulling a Hassan. She's saying America deserved 9/11, when no, that's not what she's saying at all. And I don't think anybody who would read what she's saying in good faith would agree that she's like, yeah, fuck America, they deserve 9/11. And that wasn't even Hassan's point, not to get into that. Like, he was also talking about blowback. Nonetheless, they're trying so hard to grasp at straws, and they just can't find anything. And even if they could find a couple of scandals and, bad tweets as they did with Daria Liza, it still doesn't necessarily land, because even if Daria Liza or one of these Democratic Socialist candidates say something that you disagree with, it's like, okay, well, they said that, but also they support Medicare for all. I'll give them a pass for the stupid shit that they might have said or something that I disagree with. And I just, if I were a Republican propagandist, I genuinely don't know how I would try to get people to be afraid of that, because it just seems like an insurmountable task. Nonetheless, I love it. I love being on the winning side for once, and I love seeing the centrists shit their pants every single time another Democratic Socialist makes it across the finish line. So that's another victory on our belts. And yeah, I had to come to you immediately with this news, because whenever there's good news, as I always say, we have to celebrate it. And this is a monumental victory, because not like it's, not like we didn't already know this, but yeah, the DSA sweep that we saw was not a fluke. We didn't necessarily get a sweep tonight, but the wins from DSA-backed candidates, they're starting to rack up. And we're getting so many DSA members of Congress that we might have a socialist caucus, potentially. They should do that if they haven't considered that. We should have a socialist caucus in the next Congress, because why not? So, I don't have anything else to say. I think I'm rambling at this point, but I am over the moon about this victory, and I'm still riding high from last week's victory, so it kind of feels like I'm still living in a dream. And, it's nice. I'll take comfort in that, because, if I wake up from the stream, I'll remember, oh yeah, we're living in hell, but I'm not going to think about that right now. We've got some victories, and that's all that I'm going to put on my mind. Everything else, I'll let roll off my shoulders.